but I'm living for right now. Cause what if tomorrow never comes? I'm not waiting.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Judy. Today I will be covering Lupus Awareness Month. Today is May 1st and it marks the first day where we bring awareness to a disease called lupus. Some of you guys may be wondering why I am bringing forth this topic. Well, I was diagnosed with lupus back in February 2018 after suffering for about 6 years without knowing what was wrong with me. I first started showing symptoms when I was about 17, 18 years old. I started off with just joint swelling in my elbows and my knees, and I didn't really know what was going on. I mentioned it to my mom a few times. I was like, oh, well, maybe something bit me in the bed, or like, you know, maybe it's just from, you know, ripping and running or whatever the case may be. But then I started getting really tired. I had extreme fatigue to the point there where I would sleep all day. So my mom brought me to my pediatrician, and she's just like, wow, that's weird. You know, this is the second or third time you've mentioned to me that your joints are swelling. I want you to see a rheumatologist because you may just, you know, have arthritis. But also on top of that, she also, during that time frame of me complaining about the swelling of the joints, diagnosed me with carpal tunnel syndrome because my joints here and here will just pop out of socket, just randomly pop out of socket. And it is so fucking painful. It's really just something I've learned to deal with now. It'll happen. I'll text, or I'll be driving, I'll just be writing, and it'll just pop in and pop out. And so she referred me to a rheumatologist. I graduated high school a semester early, so I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna take her advice of her giving me this ibuprofen for now, and I'm gonna go on and just try to, you know, live my life and just kind of handle it the best way I can, because I just didn't want to see a doctor. I had already mentioned it to her 3 times. I mean, she's just a pediatrician. She's not a specialty doctor, so she couldn't exactly tell me what was wrong or what was going on. So I just went on about my life. You know, if I was feeling tired or I wasn't feeling very well, I would just pop ibuprofen, boop, like that was gonna do something, and I would just go on with my, you know, my usual day. Well, then well, fast forward, I started expecting my daughter. And while I was pregnant with my daughter, I could not hold down water. I could not hold down water for like 5 or 6 months. I literally, all of my bones here, you can see them. My spine, you can see my spine. My face was sunken in. I was so skinny for about 6 months until finally I got some Zofran or something my doctor gave me, and I started to gain weight. I gained a lot of weight. I gained it all back, plus some. And I dealt with, you know, swollen joints and stuff like that while I was pregnant, but they just said that it was probably just due to me being pregnant. Mostly my feet swelled, my ankles, my hands, stuff like that. So we'll fast forward a few months after I had my daughter. Well, those same symptoms I had like several years prior to, I started having again. And this time it like hit me tenfold. It was an unbearable pain that I just couldn't function. Like, I was working 2 jobs, I was going to school at night, and then I was single parenting at the time. And I lived with my mom, and my mom literally would have to like be like, hey, you gotta get out the bed, you gotta go to work. And like, my body was just not having it. My body would not move. Like, mentally, I was like, okay, like, we have to get up, you have to go to work. But physically, I just couldn't find the power to get out of bed. I didn't have the strength, I didn't have the energy. So my mom was like, my mom's a registered nurse, she's an RN, so she was like, hey, you need to go see a rheumatologist. You need to go see a rheumatologist and see what's going on. You've been having these symptoms since you were like 17, 18 years old. You're 21 now. They're reoccurring, they're coming back, and now they're interfering with your daily life, and you need to go ahead and nip this in the bud and see what's going on. So I saw my first rheumatologist when I was 21, and y'all, Y'all. This lady was just, you ever heard like horror stories about how like doctors don't listen to you? They think they know everything, so like they don't even listen to your opinion or what's going on with you, and it's your body. Yes, they're definitely, you're the doctor, you have the degree, you've been in medical school, you did your residency. Absolutely, I'm not knocking, you know, your effort and your specialty and what you know. However, I do know my body's not right. You can't tell me that something's not right with my body. Well, I saw this doctor, and literally the first thing she says when she sits in my chair, she goes, "Oh, you're young." And I was like, "Yeah, I am young, but you shouldn't just have that in your head. I'm young, so there's not something wrong." So she asked me all these questions. She was just like, "Oh, like, are you a single mom?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you go to school?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, well, you know, how many jobs do you have?" And I'm like, "I have 2 jobs." She goes, "Oh, wow. Well, maybe you're just wearing yourself out." I'm telling her everything that's happened in the past, you know, all the symptoms I've had over the years, how I just was so tired, like being outside. I was working at a daycare during the time, daycare and substitute teaching during the day. So I would go to the daycare in the morning, work the morning shift, and then substitute throughout the day, and then do aftercare at the daycare. And then when school was out, I would work at the daycare. And then before that, I was working full-time at the daycare. Being outside would drain the life out of me. It would drain me. It was like, I went outside for 30 minutes and it was just like, okay, like, I'm lightheaded, I'm tired, like, it just was too much for me. So, I would wear, like, baseball caps a lot, like, just kind of try to cover myself from the sun, just because it was draining me. So, I was telling her all of this stuff, and she's just, like, asking me, "Did you suffer from postpartum depression?" And I'm just like, "No, I feel fine. I don't feel like I'm depressed. I was depressed my whole pregnancy, so I know when I'm depressed, you know." And I'm just like, "No, I don't think, you know, that's something that's an issue." So she goes, "Okay, well, I don't think I see anything wrong. We're gonna run some blood work just to make sure everything's okay." But she's like, "I think you're just depressed." She literally put, I was clinically depressed on my paperwork. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have to switch doctors after this. Like, I'm gonna see what blood work she has or whatever, and then, you know, I'm gonna switch rheumatologists, because she's not even listening to anything I say. She literally just labeled me depressed when I know I feel fine. I don't have any suicidal thoughts at the moment. I'm not feeling down. I just feel like something's not right with my body. So about a week, maybe less than a week, passed by, and with my doctor, you can go online and look at your test results. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm getting emails. This test result came back. This test result came back. Okay, cool. I'm going to look at it, whatever. I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, so I had a positive ANA, a positive ANA titer, I might be saying it wrong, it's spelled TITER, test, and then I had a vitamin D deficiency. I had no vitamin D in my body, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna look on Google and see what this could possibly mean, what this, you know, could possibly, you know, be saying for me. So I go on Google, vitamin D deficiency, you know, make you tired. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is why I'm tired. I feel so fatigued, you know. It has something to do with your bones and your joints and your muscles. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe that's why everything's popping, or everything just feels, you know, achy and it's swelling and stuff like that. I was like, okay, so let me see what this ANA thing is, because I don't know what it is. So there's a question mark on where you look at your test results, and it's going to tell you like what the test is for and what it could mean and the possibilities and stuff like that. So I look at it, and it was like autoimmune diseases. It's where the ANA kind of basically just shows you when your body is attacking itself, which is what lupus is. Lupus is when your immune system attacks your healthy cells and organs because it recognizes them as foreign instead of healthy. So I was like, well, wow, you know, this answers some questions for me. Not saying, I'm like, oh, okay, well then maybe, you know, it could be lupus, it could be something, you know, autoimmune related, it could be anything. So literally I didn't hear back from her at all until she wanted me to schedule her next appointment. And so I was just like, you know, this is coming back positive. Like, this can be some kind of answer. So I'm asking her, I was like, should I be alarmed? Is there anything I should do? She's like, oh, well, we'll just discuss your options when you come in next month. I was like, okay. That to me is not very proactive. I feel like shit. You need to do something. It's interfering with my everyday life. I cannot get out of bed. I cannot go to work. I'm not focusing on my schoolwork. I'm basically getting freaking D's in all my classes right now, and you're telling me to wait a month? That didn't work for me. So I went ahead, I went to the doctor's appointment. She was just like, well, I see that your vitamin D is very, very low, and I also see that you had a positive ANA test. It's not in the thousands, it's just slightly elevated, so I'm not excited about it. It's not anything for me to get excited about. So I just want you to take this vitamin D medicine, blah, blah, blah. And then she prescribed me hydroxychloroquine, which is a medication that they give to people who have autoimmune disorders. She prescribed me 800 mg a day. Y'all, like, this was like strike 3 for this lady. When I told my mom, she was like, either she's trying not to alarm you because there's something really going on, or she just doesn't know what she's doing, because she's like, that's a lot. That's a high dosage of hydroxychloroquine to take, y'all. Let me tell you how I had to adjust to this medication. This medication literally, like, if the disease, the lupus wasn't knocking me out, that medication was knocking me out. So literally you have to wait 3 to 4 months for the hydroxychloroquine to even kick in. So I'm taking 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night. I'm trying to figure out how to eat with this medication, what to eat with this medication, when to eat with this medication, because the medication went through me. Like, I would have to use the bathroom. I would legit have to call another teacher to watch the class while I was substituting, or make the kids do busy work, because the medication was making me so sick. I was throwing up. I was using the bathroom all the time. I didn't even want to eat. So on top of me already weighing like 113 pounds because I couldn't even put on weight, that was happening. So I was losing weight, you know? So I talked to my mom. I was like, hey, I don't think this lady was right. I don't think she listened to me. I don't think she really cared, or she wasn't excited because I'm young and she didn't have enough information. I think I need to see another rheumatologist. So during this time, I went to the doctor, my regular doctor, a couple of times, just for my joints. I could hear them cracking. I could hear them rubbing together. Mind you, I'm still 21, 22 years old. I can just hear, like, my bones, the, you know, joints in my jaw, everything. He's just like, you have arthritis. And I was like, wow, like, arthritis, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. He was like, I mean, you know, it happens, but you're just so young. He was like, you need to, you know, try to eat better and just try to work out. He was like, walk 30 minutes a day in the morning, just 30 minutes a day. Not even in the morning. He was like, if you could walk around the house, just do that. He was like, I hate for you to, you know, be disabled or unable to move by the time you're in your 40s. So he prescribed me meloxicam for that, which I only really took it as needed, but he also prescribed it because I went to the hospital twice. I had my dad bring me to the emergency room one night because I had severe chest pain right here and I didn't know what was going on. I had to stay at the hospital overnight. Mind you, I'm a single mom, and thank God my dad lives next door. He's able to take me to the hospital, because then I would have been shit out of luck. My mom lives an hour and 20 minutes away from where I am, and my dad's, you know, the only family I have next door. I was new in town and I didn't really have any friends, so I didn't really have anybody to call. So we got the test results back for that, and they were like, you have inflammation. And I'm like, inflammation? And he's like, yeah, you have inflammation in your checks. Just take the meloxicam. It'll help with all of the symptoms you have for right now, but you shouldn't have this problem again. So we'll fast forward. I probably went to the hospital about 2 or 3 more times after that for inflammation in my chest, and nobody had any answers or anything for me except for me to take this meloxicam whenever I needed it. I got a couple of steroid shots and a couple of steroid pills, but they didn't want me to be dependent on the steroids because steroids, they weaken your immune system. So you don't want to have to take them, even though people with lupus do have to take steroids every day, just for the symptoms that they have. So he referred me to a second rheumatologist that he went to school with. He was really good friends with. He was like, I really want you to go see him. He was like, I don't specialize in autoimmune disorders, but I feel like something is wrong with you and that you need to get that checked out. So I went to the second rheumatologist. He basically did the same thing the first rheumatologist did. He was like, you're young, you're in school, you're a single mom, you're doing a lot. I think maybe, you're just depressed, or, you just, are tired. So he wrote it off as let me go back. So the first doctor, she diagnosed me with connective tissue disorder, So that's basically what we were going with, however. So, which is basically an autoimmune disorder, but they can't pinpoint which one it is. They can't pinpoint if it's lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or Drone syndrome or whatever it's called, so they label it that. So I see him, he goes, okay, well, I'm going to do blood work. I'm sure it's going to be fine. It's not going to be anything. Mind you, this is like a year stretch, it's a stretch of time. So he runs the blood work. He goes, hey, I want you to come back in, blah, blah, blah. He has a positive ANA test. So I'm like, okay, well, these are 2 positive ANA tests. If you're telling me there's not something wrong, then at this point, I don't know what to do, I started to get frustrated. I prayed about it. I would talk to my mom about it. It was just like, nobody's giving me answers and nobody's telling me, like, what I can do to make myself feel better, to help myself keep pushing throughout the day, because there are times where I feel fine, there are times I feel great, but then there's times where I feel like shit, and I couldn't function, and nobody's listening to me. And at this point, it was like, okay, well, if you're not going to advocate for me, I'm going to have to advocate for myself. I'm going to have to Google and see what I can do to help me feel better, so I can graduate college and I can provide a better life for my daughter, and I can do what I need to do, to just push through, Okay, sorry guys, I had to take a break, just thinking back about the whole situation and having to go through all of that. It just really it frustrates me thinking about it, So so I ended up switching from him, and I went a few years without seeing another doctor. It just was at this point, okay, I'm gonna just take what y'all prescribed me, keep giving me refills, and it'll be fine. My last straw with that doctor was he took me off the hydroxychloroquine when my body finally got used to it, and my body finally got used to it and finally got settled using the medication, and I started to feel better, and he took me off of it because he felt like it was probably a false ANA, even though it was the second positive ANA that I had. So on to the next, got rid of him. And yeah, just for a few years I just went on by my life. I just tried to, if I had to go to the hospital, I just went to the hospital. They would give me a steroid shot. I did that a few times, and then finally, we're in 2019 now. In 2018, last year, I was in my last year of undergrad, and it kicked my ass, y'all. I was taking 18 hours each semester. I was taking 15 hours during the summer, and because I just wanted to be done. I wasn't taking my health seriously. I would just kind of like brush it off to the point that I exhausted myself. I burnt me out, and you can't be 100% if you're burning yourself out, you know. So February, I took a walking class outside, and it started to get hot outside or whatever. And I mean, I don't really go outside per se, but I went outside for this class because I had to take the class to graduate. You know, your girl don't like to be outside. I'm not really athletic. You know, I take my daughter to the park and stuff like that. But, you know, I go baseball cap, kind of run it for about 15 minutes. By the time I do that, I can be like, hey, you want a snowball? Yeah, I want a snowball. You know, you can get her inside real quick. So I had this walking class, and literally I was walking. And by the time I was finished the walking class, my ears started ringing. My ears started ringing. I got really, really, really lightheaded. My hands got tight. My chest, my heart started beating at my chest. And so we went outside. I kind of just like, you know, put my head in between my legs. I was trying to just like gather myself because I felt like I was about to pass out. And about a few minutes later, like I kind of looked at myself and I had a rash. I had a rash all on my arms. I had rashes on my legs. My face was just like red here, kind of like I looked sunburnt, but like, you know, I don't really get sunburnt, so I looked sunburnt on my face. And so I was just like, whoa, like taken aback. I was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? I called my mom. I FaceTimed her. I was like, do you see this and the other? And I already had a rheumatology appointment with a new rheumatologist, except I had about 2 more months until it was time for the appointment. Well, my mom was like, call that rheumatologist you're supposed to see if she has an opening, see if somebody canceled, because that does not look right. She was like, you need to see her as soon as possible. So I called, I told them what was going on, and they were like, we'll take you tomorrow, come in tomorrow, we want to catch it while it's active, whatever it may be. So my mom was, I called my mom back, I was like, hey, they'll take me tomorrow because they want to see, you know, what exactly is going on, they want to see it now. She was like, okay, well, I'm going to take off, I'm going to come with you, and you know, we're going to get answers this time because it just sucks. It's been years. It's a long stretch and I haven't had any answers. I don't know what's going on in my body. I don't know how to help myself, and my doctors aren't even trying to help me. So at this point, you know, like I said earlier, you have to advocate for yourself, and my mom came along and she advocated for me because, you know, she's had to deal with me dealing with this, even though she lives long distance. So I got there to the doctor. I'm the youngest person there, so of course the receptionists are like, oh, well, how you doing, young lady, whatever, you know. So I get in there, and the doctor, she's really, really nice. She's looking at my chart, she's looking at everything. She was like, I pulled your chart because I wanted to see everything that was going on. She's like, I see, you know, you had a vitamin D deficiency at this time, and then you had 2 positive A&Es during this time, and you complained about joint pain and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. So she was asking me questions. She was just like, how often does this happen? She's just like, are there times where you feel okay? And I'm just like, yeah, there are times that I feel fine, and there are times that I could go a month feeling tired, and my joints are popping. I feel like an old lady. Like, my body is not, you know, how it's supposed to be. So she kind of just sat there. She gave me an exam. You know, she had me like touch my toes. She wanted me like bend my knees pop. You know, it's just like, you know, my elbows that popped. You know, everything just popping. I mentioned the carpal tunnel syndrome to her, how my, you know, just kind of pop out of socket. And so she literally sat there with me for an hour and 30 minutes, and I greatly appreciated that because it was what I needed. she was a doctor that cared. She was a doctor who didn't let her degree or let her profession and what she knew overshadow what was going on and the things that I was telling her. She actually listened to me, and that's why I stick to her. I like her a lot. Whenever I have an issue, I will not switch rheumatologists unless she moves. I mean, if she moves, I might move with her just because, you know, she's just great. So after she looked over everything, she was like, has anybody ever diagnosed you with lupus? And I was like, no. The last few doctors told me, well, the first doctor told me I had undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, and then the second doctor told me there was nothing wrong. And she was just like, yeah. She's like, you know, I'm looking at the, you know, all of your paperwork, and she was like, it takes a long time to diagnose lupus for a lot of people. She was just like, you have lupus. And so she was like, I want you to take the hydroxychloroquine. She was like, but I'm not prescribing you 800 mg. That's way too much. She was like, I'm going to prescribe you 200. So you take that every day. I think it's 200. 400. 400 mg a day, 200 in the morning, 200 at night. She said, take the meloxicam as you need it. Now I know what I can do. Like, it was just a burden. And it's sad because if I would not have advocated for myself, I would probably still be feeling sick. I probably would not get shit done. And it just sucked that it took that long. But then again, it was a relief that I got the answers that I needed. And now I'm able to, you know, move on with my life and take care of business, because literally having lupus is like being hit by a bus. Some days you can't even get out of bed. I was so embarrassed about these lesions I had on my legs. I wouldn't even wear shorts. I wouldn't wear skirts. Like, I didn't want anybody to see my legs. I was embarrassed, you know. Even the rash on my face, I would try to put makeup over it to cover it because I didn't want people to see that. My hair was falling out. I weighed 113 pounds. I weighed 110 pounds at one point, you know, and now I'm healthier. I'm at 132 pounds now. I was able to finish school. I stick to it, you know, I try to stick to a diet, you know, like hot dogs and stuff. I like to eat things I'm not supposed to eat. That's pretty much, you know, my lupus story from there. And then over the last year since then, I started having issues with my memory and my concentration, so I ended up seeing a neurologist. That's been a tough thing too to talk about, because you don't want to feel like you're crazy, but you feel like you're crazy, you know. It got to the point where, like, I was leaving my house, keys in my door, and my dad and my uncles would pass by my house, and they would be like, you know, thinking something's wrong with me or something happened to me because I left the keys in the door. That's how bad my memory was getting. My short-term memory is terrible. Concentrating, I started grad school, and I started having issues sitting down at the computer and just thinking of things to type or how to type them, or remembering my rules for APA style format, just different things. And I'm only 24 years old, and I feel like just things that are out of my control, I don't know what to do. So I started seeing a neurologist for that. She's great. She's out here in Hammond, the area I live in, and she diagnosed me with she didn't diagnose me with anything. She prescribed me amitriptyline, which is a nerve medication, because also on top of that, I just started having neurology issues within the last year. On top of the memory loss, the loss of concentration, just the overall brain lupus fogs that I have, which is a thing. I started going numb in my legs and my arms out of nowhere. I could be laying down and my legs would go numb. I was driving home. A couple of times I was driving home and I had to pull over on the side of the road because my legs were going numb. So she prescribed me amitriptyline to help with my nerves. She thinks there might be nerve damage. I did a 3-day study on my brain. She couldn't find anything. I did a CAT scan and an MRI. The only thing they found, and then this is a crazy thing, I did the MRI CAT scan for the lupus, and they found a tumor on my gland. which is crazy. They thought it might have been swollen lymph nodes, but then I ended up having to go to an ear and nose doctor, and it's a small tumor on my parotid gland. I'm super blessed and I'm happy to be here on earth, because when we got the lupus diagnosis, it literally took us, it was something that we were taken aback by, because we've had 2 family members that were diagnosed with lupus in their 20s, and they didn't live to see 50. One of them, she had blood clots, and then another one, her kidneys failed. So it's something that runs in my family. My grandma would get on me. She'd be like, "What are you eating?" And I'm like, "A hot dog." She goes, "Is that okay for your lupus? Are you supposed to be eating it?" I'm like, "Girl, look, a hot dog is not gonna kill me. I'm only having one, you know." You definitely have to advocate for yourself. Take care of yourself. Handle your business. Do what you're supposed to do to make sure that you're here for a long time. You're here to leave your mark. You're here to be what you want to be out of life. Here for your kids. I know for me, you know, I have my daughter, and I just want to be the best mom I can be, even though sometimes I know I can't even get out that bed, you know. But I know she understands, and I know that I'm still trying to be the best mom that I can be, even though I have a disease and I do everything on my own. So that's my lupus story, and thank you. I greatly appreciate you guys. If you sat here and listened through that whole thing, you're amazing. If not, I understand it's kind of a lot to deal with. I'm just happy that y'all were here to listen. Please like and subscribe. I'm also gonna blog on my blog, which I will give you the link below for that, about my lupus experience and how I parent with my lupus, and different recipes that I use and different foods that I eat to just kind of help me, you know, keep functioning throughout the day. So thank you guys for kicking it with me, and I hope y'all enjoy.